Hello, welcome back to my astrology podcast and welcome to Sagittarius season. Today I'll be talking about the sun's movement through Sagittarius from the 22nd of November. It will exit Sagittarius on the 21st of December. And today I'll be talking about the first third to half of Sagittarius season because there's a lot to cover. We have Mercury going retrograde, we have Mars going retrograde, we have Neptune stationing direct. We've got those strong Aquarian themes with Pluto sitting on that 0 degrees of Aquarius. And we have some very strong outer planet interactions amongst it all. So just setting the stage of what we're actually sitting in energetically right now. We have Pluto, who has just entered into Aquarius as of the 20th of November for the final time. And he's sitting on that very potent 0 degree point, which is extra potently Aquarian, with things that are different, unique, very cerebral processes coming to the fore, technology. These are big changes and transformations around all of these themes, freedom, consciousness itself, because Aquarius is an air sign and rules the mind. I spoke more about Pluto in Aquarius in the second half of my Scorpio season video. And he is very strong still on that 0 degree of Aquarius, which he'll be sitting on for a while. We still have all of the other outer planets retrograde, except for Saturn. So we've got Neptune, Chiron, Uranus, Jupiter, all still retrograde, which means that these bigger picture, broader energies could be being felt quite internally at this time. Like there's a kind of attachment to things that aren't necessarily part of our everyday lives or our everyday psyche. We could feel a greater connection to the collective energies. We could feel even in touch with greater, bigger, broader energies. And apropos of that, Sagittarius is the sign of the bigger picture. It is the sign of vision, meaning, ideals, beliefs, understanding, wisdom, learning, teaching, things like philosophy, language, religion, higher learning. And as the sun moves into Sagittarius, it actually makes a sextile angle to Pluto at the 0 degree of Aquarius. So when the sun moved into Scorpio last month, it actually made a square aspect to Pluto before ingressing into Scorpio. And now as it exits Scorpio and into Sagittarius, I've spoken about this before, the energy and the lessons are different now. So the square aspect was flavoring this season with the challenge to empower, the challenge to let go of what is already dead. Pluto rules the underworld. Now with this sextile, there's a different frequency, a different tone, and the way that we're consciously identifying with energies. So after letting go, transforming, empowering, rebirthing in Scorpio season, it's like now we're aiming with that Sagittarian bow our aspirations towards expansion and learning. And what has it all been for? It's the bigger picture, the bigger meaning. And it's like with this sextile to Pluto, because Pluto empowers and speaks of power, it's like we are empowered through this connection or consciousness of the higher, broader meaning. So we've moved from these intense, internal, inferno energies within us in the depths of our psyche, in the depths of our psychology, the deep, dark emotions. And we've moved through these alchemical fires through Scorpio season, because also too, Pluto was anaretic on the final degree of Capricorn. So it's like these death, regeneration, rebirth energies were even more intense because Pluto was so highlighted being the ruler of Scorpio season. And now that we've moved through all of that, instead of moving through the fires of the earth, the fires of the underworld, now we're into a different kind of fire. Sagittarius is a fire sign, but instead of like this brooding volcano, it's like a firework. Sagittarius is optimism, positivity. Sagittarius is joy. It's hope. Yes, it's about the vision, the purpose, the meaning. And it's not about aiming our arrow towards a goal for the sake of ambition or achievement, the way that it is in Capricorn, but it's about what we learn from and take from the journey. It's the journey for the journey's sake. And it really is a lightening of the energies as the sun moves through Sagittarius. To kick this sun season off, we've got a very Sagittarian aspect. We have Pallas, the asteroid Pallas, goddess of wisdom, tact, and diplomacy, conjunct the galactic center. Now, I spoke about the galactic center in one of my Scorpio season videos. It's at about 27 degrees of Sagittarius. It's the point in space that our whole galaxy revolves around. It has to do with the rotation of our galaxy. It's massively energetically powerful. And what it does at this 27 degree of Sagittarius is it gives us direction. It gives us our higher vibrational direction, and it teaches us about our own energetic center within ourself and where we're moving forwards and moving towards in terms of that alignment with our higher energetic spiritual good. And when a planet or point moves across the galactic center, it is magnified. It's sent further, it's sent higher. And with Pallas here, the goddess of wisdom, Pallas has to do with patterns and the way that we weave or are woven into certain complexes or ways of being. She's very mind-oriented. So this could be, because she's in Sagittarius, these ideologies and belief systems that we have that are really affecting our mindset and how and where we are aiming our aspirations. And this is an expansion of wisdom. This is an expansion of the intuitive mind. This is an expansion of understanding of how the threads of our life are interwoven with our belief systems and ideologies. Why and how, and is it in higher alignment? Pallas then goes on to square Neptune, and I also spoke about this in one of my Scorpio videos, how Neptune is in a square aspect to the galactic center because Neptune is at 27 degrees of Pisces. And this is the last time Neptune will be at 27 degrees of Pisces. It moves off 27 degrees of Pisces in February next year. So this square aspect, again, is like a realignment via really being pushed or forced to look at what's not in alignment. And this could be with Neptune, the illusions or what we're not seeing clearly in terms of our beliefs and ideologies, and in terms of how our own wisdom and intuitive knowing functions. Are you in touch with it? Because Neptune is the intangible, and this square here from Pallas to Neptune activating this galactic center. It's like any illusions that you have about your beliefs and ideologies and how you're mentally associating yourself with them could face a dissolving, or you could become uncertain. But the galactic center is the stronger point here. And so I really feel like any illusions or uncertainties that we have around belief systems, our ideologies, and our understanding of our own intuition could be fading away for our betterment, because the galactic center is in alignment with our highest good and in alignment with our energetic journey, spiritual journey, karmic journey. And because Pallas is an asteroid, the square isn't extremely tense. And because it's Neptune, it's also still not extremely tense. It's like a veil being lifted. It's like something that you thought was round and smooth and soft and pretty. It's like the curtain's been lifted off and you realize it's actually spiky, or it's not what you thought it was. It's not what you believed. You could have idealized something, and now you're becoming more aware that it might not have been what you actually thought it was, and it's not in alignment with your highest good and where you want to go. We have another little aspect with another asteroid, Ceres at 25 degrees of Capricorn, trining Uranus. This is back again on the 23rd, and this is a lovely aspect. Uranus has been shaking and making us quake in our boots in terms of our resources, our finances, what we find worth in, and our self-worth and self-love. And he was very strongly a part of that full moon in Taurus that we had on the 16th of November. And this trine from Ceres, the archetype of the mother goddess of the grain, of the harvest, of bounty, is nourishing perhaps the parts of us that have been quite shaken this year and especially over the past month. anything that could have had us doubting the ground upon which we stand, doubting what we've been building in our lives, doubting our sense of worth, anything that could feel unsettled or unsteady in terms of what we thought was really solid, but might not actually be. Ceres comes along, and this is a very nourishing energy and is reminding us to just feed and nurture ourselves in Capricorn with healthy boundaries, with structures in place that benefit us, with being practical. It's very grounding and very nourishing. This is on the 23rd of November. It's a very good day to tap into any of these calming, grounding energies if you've been moving through anything shocking or unsteadying. Also on the 23rd of November, we have the first of an ongoing aspect that we'll be going through until the end of August next year. We've got Black Moon Lilith conjunct Vesta. This is the first time they are meeting. They're meeting at 12 degrees of Libra, and it is the beginning of an ongoing theme that we're going to be moving through because of Lilith's orbit. She's a theoretical point in space. It marks the point in space that is the moon's apogee, that is its furthest orbit from Earth. And she vacillates backwards and forwards, and slowly progresses through a sign. And so when she meets a planet or a point, it's an ongoing journey because she goes backwards and forwards over this same point so many times. This is the first time that she will be conjunct Vesta. And Vesta is what we hold sacred. It's what we dedicate ourselves to. It's our inner sacred flame. And here in Libra, when they are conjunct, Vesta is the sacredness of balance, the sacredness of harmony and fairness in your life, being in right relationship, and your dedication only to those things and only to these people who align with your inner sacred flame and align with your harmony. Lilith is now coming along, and she shows us where to draw the line. Libra is very concerned about the other, about what is projected. And so Lilith is showing where you must put your personal rights and your personal justice first, even if it does cause external disharmony, i.e., people don't like it, because your own harmony is the most important thing to dedicate with Vesta yourself to right now. And with Lilith, this can stir the pot, which Libra is extremely uncomfortable with, but ultimately it is for your empowerment, and especially when they both move into Scorpio a little later on. And their journey together moves from Libra into Scorpio. Now, lastly, on the 23rd, we have Mars in Leo trining the North Node in Aries. This is at about 5 degrees, and this is the first of 3 because Mars will be going retrograde very soon on the 7th of December. So Mars retrograde is not an easy process because Mars's natural expression is to go, to assert, to do, to act, to move forward. And so when Mars goes retrograde, there can be a discomfort or even a frustration in a lack of movement. But this harmonious aspect here with this trine to the North Node is showing that this energetic evolution or soul evolution, karmic evolution, whichever you vibe with the most, this is what is benefiting from this Mars retrograde experience. So with Mars in Leo now, this is how we feel validated. Leo likes to feel validated for its existence. Mars in Leo is reflective of the way we activate our creativity. We assert our ego. We go for what we want. This is about our individual expression. When Mars moves back into Cancer, when he goes retrograde, it will be how we're acting on our emotions and how we assert our feelings. I will talk about this more when I talk about the Mars retrograde. But firstly, when Mars is trining the North Node, it will be trining the North Node twice while he's still in Aries. And so our identity and expression and feeling more validated in our sense of self, or feeling more in touch with our inner heart, our inner fire, this is what's being fortified at this time with this trine to the North Node. And because when Mars goes retrograde, it's this fire and this drive that's turned inward. So it's a strengthening of our personality with Mars in Leo. Leo is the personality. It's our individual identity. It's being strengthened in a really beneficial way that's really leading to our ongoing growth and evolution with the North Node here in Aries, particularly around our sense of self and who am I. And by the time Mars trines the North Node for the third time, which isn't actually going to be until April next year, they will both be in water signs. Mars will be in Cancer. The North Node by then will be in Pisces. So whatever we're strengthening now in terms of our conscious ego and our creative expression and our personality, this is what will feed into by the time we have this third and final pass of this trine in water signs. This is what will lead into this more emotional and intuitive, instinctive strength that will be benefiting our higher good and our progression in this lifetime. And we have a truly lovely configuration that is touching on this trine. We have a grand fire trine that is activated by the Sun in Sagittarius that will be trining both this North Node and this Mars. So on the 27th of November, the Sun will be at 5 degrees of Sagittarius and it will trine the North Node and then trine Mars. So it's this harmonious flow of this trine energy. It's upscaled, its creative potential, especially because this is in fire signs, that is really heightened. And this is a spark that we can really draw upon to keep moving, to keep going, to keep hope. It could be a heightening of our intuition and understanding and a heightening of our ability to tap into these intuitive qualities. It's a very buoyant configuration. It's very potent and it's tapping into this true raw creative potential. And with the Sun moving through Sagittarius, which is our conscious identification with the Sun, our meaning, our purpose, the desire to expand and explore, and this positivity and hope around our conscious ego and our identity that is feeding in with this journey, this evolutionary journey with the North Node in Aries, of being our true, confident, brave, authentic self and having the courage to initiate or pioneer or go for what you really want and what is right for you. And it's the self-discovery process that is really aided by this Sun's desire to expand and explore. And then, of course, touching on this Mars in Leo, this is what sparks the creative process. This is acting on our creativity. This is expressing your unique self and shining your spirit, shining your light in a very active way, a very conscious way. And this is helping making moves on our creativity and acting from our heart. This will be on the 27th of November, but it will be in orb from the 23rd when Mars trines the North Node. So it's a very beautiful couple of days that we have here. That is a positive force to lean into in regards to what we have happening on the 26th of November. Everybody's favorite, Mercury going retrograde. Mercury in the microwave, Mercury in lemonade, whatever you want to call it. Even if you don't know about astrology, you probably know about Mercury retrograde. Let me tell you one thing right off the bat is that Mercury retrograde is a very productive, positive time. It's nothing to freak out about. So he goes retrograde on the 26th of November at 22 degrees Sagittarius. And this is a 3-week process. He is retrograde for 3 weeks. But bear in mind, because he will go direct on the 16th of December at 6 degrees 24 minutes of Sagittarius. But it's important to bear in mind that he enters his shadow zone about 2 weeks before this period and then exits his shadow zone about 2 weeks after. So it's a solid 2-ish months that we have going over things once, twice, 3 times again. He entered his shadow zone, which is to say that he entered 6 degrees of Sagittarius back on the 7th of November, and he's not going to move past his retrograde zone, 22 degrees of Sagittarius, until the 3rd of January. So anything that's been coming up for you since the 7th of November in terms of reviewing of belief systems and how they fit into your daily life, your understanding of what you believe changing or up for review? Is it really true for you, or is it something you've been told or conditioned to believe? This is any growth potential that we have in terms of tapping into our intuitive mind. It's tuning into that broader perspective, that far-reaching vision, and it's turning it inward to up-level and upgrade it by reviewing and exploring it. Anything that could have come up for you since the 7th of November will possibly not be resolved until the beginning of January, or it will be an ongoing process. Just because it's a 3-week retrograde, the period itself goes for nearly 2-ish months. So the interesting thing is that Mercury actually stations retrograde and does not make any connections for about a week, about 6 days. And then he makes 3 connections, one after the other, before turning direct again. And these 3 connections are with Chiron, with Saturn, and with Jupiter. So these are outer planets or transpersonal planets. So this, as I spoke about in one of my other podcasts, this is like an up-leveling and an upgrading of your mind's frequency, how you explore and how you expand consciously. And possibly the most important thing about this Mercury retrograde period is an activation of an aspect between Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter and Saturn are going through a square, which will not be exact for the second time until 25th of December, Christmas Day. Mercury will be opposing Jupiter and it will be squaring Saturn and activating this connection between those 2 planets and activating the cycle that they are currently going through. So the Jupiter-Saturn cycle is about the mood and the mode of how we live as a collective. It's the general overtone, the general spirit of the times. It can reflect certain styles or qualities of living that we're moving through. And because now they are going to be meeting up in their cycle every 20 years for their conjunctions in air signs, it is less about the 3D physical world when they were conjunct in earth signs before 2020, and more about our ideas, our connections, and our wishes for the future. This is technology more than anything that I can see. So they meet up every 20 years, but it's only every 200 years that Saturn and Jupiter change the element in which they meet. And so for 200 years before 2020, except one time in the 80s, the 1980s, they were meeting up in earth signs, which was about industry, profit, production, work and labor, hierarchy, status, social status. There was a huge shift in this collective mindset and collective ethos when 2020 hit and they met for the first time in an air sign. I wonder what happened in 2020 that changed the world. They met at 0 degrees of Aquarius. I wonder what's happening at 0 degrees of Aquarius right now. Pluto is on 0 degrees of Aquarius, activating the very point that these 2 societal planets began a new collective journey. So this is huge transformations with Pluto of how society and how the collective is growing through and also growing out of prior belief systems, prior spiritualities. It's a new ethos. It's a new way of practically living life. Just an example of how we have changed since the Great Mutation, as it's called, when they changed the element in which they conjunct, is that we could no longer meet 3D person to person. A lot of us started working from home via technology. This is Aquarius. This is now how we connect. This has given us a lot more, for a lot of people that is, a lot more freedom and independence with how they work. Saturn is work, because they can work from home now when they choose. And this is freedom. This is Aquarius. That's just an example of how the general ethos or mode of the times can shift when these 2 planets are interacting. And now, since that point, they're meeting in a square, a 90-degree angle. And so because of the retrograde period of both of these planets, they're meeting up 3 times. The first was back in August The second will be on Christmas Day this year, and the last one will be in June next year when they will both be in different signs. That's a different story. The point is that now with this square configuration, we're moving through some growing pains. This is speaking about how we expand and how we contract and how these two opposing forces are trying to align and balance out. Mercury retrograde is coming along and triggering this aspect. They are technically out of orb, these two, Saturn and Jupiter, but because Mercury is touching on both of them and then will be touching them both during their square on Christmas Day, the fact that he is squaring Saturn and opposing Jupiter during his retrograde period is very significant, because what is coming up now could potentially lead into what we are moving towards in the future in a very significant way. This is something that needs to be in our consciousness right now. Mercury is our mind. It's our conscious mind. It's how our brain functions. It's how we integrate and assimilate information. This is what we need to be thinking about, because Mercury is bringing it to our attention. And Mercury unpicking or unraveling or reviewing what beliefs and understandings that we have that no longer fit into your own life's particular ethos or mood makes this retrograde period rather more significant in general than his other retrograde periods than that he's at least had this year. So in Sagittarius, he's telling us to remain optimistic, have a hopeful mindset, have an optimistic mindset, even though he's in opposition with Jupiter. His first opposition with Jupiter will be on the 4th of December, even though that's an opposition aspect and it is tense and it is fraught. Because Mercury and Jupiter are in each other's ruling sign, the energy is rather more like a conjunction. So they're working together, or at least they have some kind of a truce or amnesty. They can see where the other is coming from. Jupiter in Gemini retrograde, he's currently at 16 degrees 44 minutes when he is being opposed by Mercury on the 4th of December. Jupiter in Gemini is really perpetuating and instilling these airy themes, or these expansive ideas, big talk, big connections. And with this Mercury opposition, it can be like, what is truth? What is my truth versus the fact? And there could be a heightened awareness of the fact that everybody's truth is actually different. Stories could feel untrue. People's opinions could feel untrue. Facts could even feel untrue. There could be an energy of what is even going on right now. And then with Saturn here, Mercury's square to Saturn will not be until the 7th of December. But with Saturn here in Pisces, he's putting up a bit of a roadblock or a pause. And it's almost as if he says, you're not able to pass, you're not able to keep going and moving forward without integrating these big ideas, without integrating any of the connections that you're making with what your intuitive mind knows is for your highest good. And this can take a while to figure out. And that's what this whole retrograde period will be about. It's integrating truth, fact, fiction, what we're going for, these ideas and connections that could be in conflict with your truth. And in Pisces, Saturn is the pause that says, you must sit in stillness, Pisces. You must sit and you must wait. The next phase will come. It's already here for some of us, but this pause is a check-in, and it's about making you look at the truth and the details of your reality. Saturn is reality. It's the reality check. It's the check-in. Even bringing these vacillating, mutable energies to heal, because all of this is occurring in mutable signs, which is about change and transition. And that even though you might not know the truth or the full picture about something, it will come. This confusing period will pass, and it is a necessary period to move through in order to integrate and recalibrate our own personal truth and understanding and ideas with what is for our highest good in practical reality. And if there's anything that these mutable signs teach us, it's that you must stay flexible, be prepared for things to mutate from any original plans or intentions. And it's because it's likely at this stage that things won't be concrete. Saturn here, he's grounding the energies, yes, but because he's in Pisces, he's not necessarily holding you. He's not holding us down, because Pisces is the intangible. It's just like Saturn's giving you a boat, a structure, a form to float on these changing currents. And because nothing is necessarily concrete right now, it's almost as if the most constructive or supportive thing you can do to manage or not manage the energies is just to go with the flow at this stage, not to force anything, and observe the energies. Observe them unfold and follow your higher intuition, this Mercury in Sagittarius, because that is what will lead you to your truth, and that is the guiding light. And so the period of time where these tense and intangible and what's going on energies are occurring will be between the 4th and the 8th of December, because the 4th of December is when Mercury opposes Jupiter, and then he will square Saturn on the 7th. And then what's also happening is that the Sun is doing the same thing a day later, because Mercury will be conjunct the Sun, which is the midpoint of his retrograde period on the 6th of December, which I don't have on the screen here. So it's both Mercury and the Sun. It's our mind and our conscious identities that are really moving through these shifting, growing pains in this period of time. It's also interesting to note that Mercury conjunct the Sun on the 6th of December will be occurring at 14 degrees 27 Sagittarius, which is the same point as the Great Attractor. So if the galactic center is what our galaxy revolves around, the Great Attractor is what all of the galaxies are revolving around. It's massively, colossally powerful, and it is not just tied in with the rotation of our galaxy. It's the rotation of our galaxies with multiple other galaxies around a fixed energetic center. So in astrology, these 2 points, our conscious ego with the Sun here in Sagittarius, reaching and expanding and exploring, and our conscious mind tapping into our intuition, tapping into our higher understanding, both meeting up on point of the zodiac that speaks of what is it all for, really? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? And any issues or blocks or angsts that you have right now, do they really matter in the bigger picture? And if they do, this connection with the Great Attractor is saying there is now no space for them, because it's not for your highest good. And it's time to move beyond, expand beyond, grow beyond all of these Sagittarius words by seeking your truth, by seeking the truth, the highest truth, whatever that means for you. With this Mercury Sun conjunction, this is the point where amidst the shifting sands that some kind of a form or shape begins to become visible, and any inklings of answers or truth can be glimpsed, even if the ability to act on it or really hone into a conclusion is still kind of out of grasp, because we're not at the end of this retrograde period yet. You could get a glimpse of the light. And this again is not on the screen, it's on the 6th of December. Now I'm going to rewind and go back to where I was up to, which was the 28th of November. We've got Venus squaring Chiron, which is a bit of a hiccup. Venus is in Capricorn, which is the boss lady. The heart is the authority, because Venus is what we desire, what we're attracted to. It's the image or archetype of the beloved. And in Capricorn, your heart is committed, it's serious. This could be the energy of being rigid or unyielding, even cold or stern. And Venus in Capricorn mostly teaches us about our boundaries, whether they're healthy or unhealthy. And she can also teach us about the fear of the vulnerable heart, because this is what Venus in Capricorn can struggle with. And with the square to Chiron in Aries here, this journey of healing our sense of self and bridging any wounding around our identity or place or who am I, self-confidence and ability to healthily assert yourself. This square could be showing us that any walls that we have up around our heart, or any ways that we're holding our desires in, we could be being shown how this is detrimental, but also how to heal and transcend any of these walls, restrictions, or heart fears. And it's through this experience and wisdom, which is Chiron, but also Capricorn, actually. Capricorn can be the elder and the teacher. It's about allowing any of this wounding that we've been through that could have closed off or restricted our heart to now transcend, not to disappear, but you can now work constructively what you have moved through, and you can now choose to open your heart to. So this is a heart tension on the 28th of November, but it's also a heart lesson as well. I'll quickly touch on the new moon, which is on the 1st of December at 9 degrees 33 minutes of Sagittarius. But because I'm making another video on this, I won't go too deeply into it. This is actually a very, very quiet new moon. There are no major astrological transits happening. I mean, Mercury makes his second trine to Chiron about 24 hours later, and Pallas ingresses into Capricorn on this day. But apart from that, nothing else is really happening, which could be quite a relief after the bombastic, sparkly full moon in Taurus. So Pallas, the goddess of wisdom, is moving into constructive, practical, hardworking Capricorn. And this is working on our wisdom. This is working on constructive patterns and the ways that we constructively weave objectivity, tact, and diplomacy into our ambitions and into even our social status, and the way that we mentally, with Pallas, mentally exert our social status. Pallas can be about mental assertion in a way that Mercury really isn't, because Mercury is our cerebral processes, but Pallas is a goddess of war as well as a goddess of peace, because she was fighting wars with tact and diplomacy. So this is using the blade of our intellect to carve out what we practically want in our 3D reality, in the structures of our lives, and really honing in on our ambitions in a constructive way. This is occurring on the new moon, which is a new start, a new intention on our direction, purpose, and meaning, that even though the ruler of this new moon, which is Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, is not only in his detriment, but also retrograde and also opposite Mercury retrograde. So all of these themes that I've been talking about is feeding into this lunation. So it's about setting that intention of where you want to go next. And it could be slightly frustrating because of this perhaps lack of an ability to progress or move forward at this time. But it's like making yourself ready, setting that intention for the next journey, the next growth point, so that as things start falling into place, your arrow is already notched and aimed, and you know where you're going to go. On the 3rd of December, we've got Venus in Capricorn trining Uranus, which is similar to that Ceres trining Uranus back on the 23rd of November. This will be at 24 degrees of Capricorn and 24 degrees of Taurus. Venus is ruling Uranus at the moment because Uranus is in her sign of Taurus. And this is a very favorable, very positive aspect where the energies could be about trying something different. What do you normally desire, and how can you spice it up a bit? Venus in Capricorn likes things more conventional, likes things to be planned and expected and practical. But with the trine to Uranus in Taurus here, it's like try something different. Scintillate your senses in Taurus with something out of the ordinary. And how can your heart awaken? How can your heart be sparked through doing things a little bit differently? This is on the 3rd of December. And also that Vesta in Libra will be trining Jupiter retrograde. So this is another harmonious aspect. This is all of these huge, big, expansive ideas, big talks, big connections that Jupiter is teaching us about. And this includes the inner connections that we're making to these disparate parts within ourselves, because he's retrograde. It's an inner journey. Vesta is coming along and feeding the flame of these connections, feeding the flame of this mind expansion. And it can be a balancing influence because she's in Libra. It's a very harmonious, balancing, realigning energy. So even if we've been a lot in our heads lately, Vesta coming along, even though she's in an air sign as well, she's a very grounded energy because she's the goddess of the home and the hearth. And in Libra, she balances, and that is what is sacred. So there could be a remembering here that even if we've been in our heads a lot, there's a very strong sense of rebalancing these mental processes and these mental journeys with Jupiter and Gemini, with our home and hearth, and how we find harmony and how we find balance, and really tapping into that to settle the mind. Okay, so thanks so much for listening. I have done a tarot reading for Sagittarius season, but I'll be uploading that video separately. Keep an eye out for that one. Until then, enjoy the light and optimism that the sun in Sagittarius brings. Thank you so much once again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.